Hi, thanks for joining us for the Family Plots, Gardening in the Mid-South. I'm Chris Cooper. Emerald ash borer is devastating Tennessee forests. Today, we're going to tell you what you need to do to prevent its spread. Also, fertilizers help plants grow, but you need to use the right amount. We're going to show you how to properly apply them. That's just ahead on the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South.
Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by Goodwin's Landscape and Garden Center in Germantown since 1943 and continuing to offer its plants for successful gardening with 7 greenhouses and 3 acres of plants, plus comprehensive landscape services. International Paper Foundation, the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to the Family Plot. I'm Chris Cooper. Joining me today is Sean Posey. Sean is a regional urban forester, and Celeste Scott is here. Celeste is a UT Extension agent in Madison County. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, no problem. All right, Sean. Let's let the folks know about emerald ash borer. I understand it's in the state of Tennessee. What do we need to know?
Listen, the emerald ash borer is known as the green monster. It's in 47 counties in the state of Tennessee. It was found in 2010 in Knox County in Knoxville. It's apparently moving rapidly to the west, and this is an opportunity for us to get informed about this insect and the damage that it causes to our ash.
Okay. Now, speaking of that damage, what kind of damage does it cause?
The ash borer, it attacks the Fraxinus species, which is the green ash, the white ash, all our ash species, and also a landscape tree, which is our French tree. Right now, it's in the pupation stage. It's about to emerge out as an adult, and that's where you get the D-shaped exit hole on these ash trees. And then it goes out, it feeds 1 to 2 weeks on neighboring ash trees. They can fly up to a half a mile away from those ash trees, but they normally just fly close around. They lay their eggs. They can also lay up to 65 to 90 eggs. Their lifespan, which could be up to 1 to 2 years. And then the eggs hatch out, and they lay these in the crevices of the trees. And the eggs hatch out, and they start to feed on the phloem of the tree, which that's where your water and nutrients move into your tree. Cut that off, and it girdles your tree, and it starts to die.
Okay. This
insect is very destructive. It probably will have an historical effect on the state of Tennessee because of the destructiveness, and it doesn't have a host to really control it. And we haven't got a hand on how to control this insect. So the emerald ash borer is something that in West Tennessee we should get prepared for, offset some of the cost. There may be some litigation issues with it because if it kills ash trees of significant size, then trees falling over on private property and people are going to want their compensation of the damage they caused from those trees.
Wow, so it's going to be a major problem.
I think it's going to be a major problem.
Wow. How did it get here anyway?
The emerald ash borer was transported through wood, crates, weathering and Fraxinus species trees from different states. And that's why we're trying to control the movement of firewood and also our ash trees that are sold in our nurseries. That's how it's transported throughout the state.
Wow, that's going to really hurt the homeowners because French trees are beautiful trees, and we actually encourage folks to plant French trees.
Right.
Wow. So the emerald ash borer may be a problem for us then.
Emerald ash borer is going to be a problem for us, and I think we're in a situation now where we can get prepared for it. Homeowners, I encourage you to start scouting, going out and doing some observation of your yards. If you have ash trees, observe them, look and see if you see D-shaped holes, and then contact our local agency, the Department of Agriculture, and we'll move on from there.
Okay. Now, somebody's probably going to ask, what's the control? I mean, how do you control it, or can you control it?
There are some labels out there, imidacloprid, dinotefuran, and imamectin benzoates are some of the chemicals used to control it.
Okay.
There's no way to avoid the cost because it's going to cost to apply these chemicals,
Sure.
and then it's also going to cost for you to remove trees when it makes it here. So you got to think of the urban environment, and then you also got to think of the rural environment.
Right.
That's going to be a cost on both of those different sectors of forestry.
And so I guess for these systemic insecticides, I mean, you have to apply those every year, don't you?
Yes, you do. You have to apply them every year, and the imamectin is even more expensive because it needs to be injected.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So
Definitely going to be expensive.
Yes.
Yeah, to do it that way.
So in our natural areas, just say for instance, Overton Park, we have enormous size ash trees. I think that will be a place to target to try to preserve what we wanted. The specimens that we want to preserve, let's start preserving those in there because that's a beautiful ornament for the city of Memphis.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow. How many ash trees do you think we have in the state of Tennessee?
I think
Would you
we
have an idea?
estimated about 90 million with the cost of about 2 billion.
Wow.
Statewide, 260 million with the cost of about 9 million. Yes.
Wow. So these trees, of course, the ash trees are infected by this pastel emerald ash borer.
Mm-hmm.
How long before the tree actually starts dying, though?
Those trees start dying within 1 to 2 years, depending on the health of that tree.
Right.
If that tree is a healthy tree, then it may take 3 to 4 years. But the insect is automatically, he's going to attack the weaker tree.
Sure.
But the healthier tree is acceptable
Wow.
because he's attacking all fractional species.
Wow.
So he'll prefer the weak, and then he's going to, once he get the weak, then he'll go after the stronger.
Wow.
Yes.
No escaping the emerald ash borer. That's what it
No,
sounds like.
no.
I mean,
So-
it attacks the weak tree and your stronger trees.
Right. So
Your healthy
planning
trees.
and budgeting is key to offset some of the cost. So while we have time, let's start to scout our yards. Let's start to observe and look for this insect. And once it's detected, then we need to go to our state agencies and we need to move forward from there.
Okay.
On what we're going to do, what procedures we need to take to help the city.
Wow.
Or West Tennessee.
So tell me, is the Forestry Service, TDA, I mean, do y'all set traps, for the emerald ash borer?
They have been trapping out in the east, and I'm sure that we're going to start trapping here in the west.
Okay.
Just see can we find any detection of them.
Wow. And I've seen the emerald ash borer, of course, in pictures. Beautiful looking. Beautiful.
Beautiful.
But it does a lot of damage. And again, you talked about it, but it leaves like the little galleries.
Tunneling,
Okay.
yes, right.
And you said that infects the phloem layer. And of course, for folks, I mean,
Pretty much girdles it.
it girdles the tree.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Wow. So again, this is going to be a huge problem. I'm glad we need folks to get on the front end of this.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The front end. Let's get on the front end so we can offset and prepare, or homeowners should prepare for that tree that you want to preserve in your yard or on your landscape, and also for our cities and towns in West Tennessee. Let's be prepared for it and not take it for granted.
Sure.
Because it has a quiet stage. You detect it. You may find one specimen where it's detected and it's quiet.
Right.
And on the 5th year, you just see dieback all across your area of the state. So let's not be fooled by that quiet stage. If it's been detected in our county, then it's here.
All right. Well, Sean, we appreciate the information. And again, we hope folks get on the front end of the emerald ash borer because it's going to be a problem.
Yes, sir.
Thank you much.
There are a number of gardening events going on in the next couple of weeks. Here are just a few that might interest you. All right, Celeste, so we said that there's going to be some math involved, where now's the time for that math.
Yes, we
So what are you
did.
going to show us?
Okay, well, we're going to talk about proper fertilizer application on our lawns. For homeowners, when you get your soil sample results, they're usually going to be recommending to apply a certain amount of pounds of product per 1,000 square feet of lawn.
Okay.
So before we get ready to get out there and put our fertilizer out, we need to make sure that our spreaders are applying that fertilizer fertilizer at the appropriate rate. So what we want to do is a little on-the-fly calibration. You know, we're not going to get real technical with it.
Okay. On the fly.
On the fly
Okay.
calibration. So, for example, say that your application rate is supposed to be 2 pounds of triple 15 or triple 13
Okay.
per 1,000 square feet. We are going to actually test that theory to make sure that your spreader is working properly. You want to set your gauge on your rotary type spreader. This is a broadcast spreader, it's a rotary type, so that means the fan spins and disperses it. That's going to give you the best coverage.
Okay.
We want to make sure we set our setting at the appropriate rate. Your fertilizer bags usually tell
Yeah,
you
it does.
what rate to set that on. So that takes guesswork out of that. Next, you need to decide, determine how wide the width of your spread is.
Okay.
That's easy to do. You can go out on the pavement, push a few feet, and see, you know, measure the width of where you've thrown your fertilizer. We know that this spreader has a 5-foot width spread.
Okay.
So we are going to push it for approximately 100 feet. 100 times 5 is 500 square
500.
feet, right?
Yeah.
So that's half of 1,000. So our application said 2 pounds per 1,000. We've measured 1 pound of fertilizer, and we're going to push it across 500 square feet.
Makes
So
sense.
when I get to the end, if I still have fertilizer left, I pushed too fast, or my gauge isn't set properly, and we need to open that gate a little higher.
Okay.
If you run out before you get to the end, then you're pushing way too slow,
slow.
or your door is way too wide open
Okay.
and you need to lower it, okay?
Okay.
So I think we're gonna do a little demo pushing it, and then we'll see where we end up.
All right, Celeste, what do you think?
All right, well, we got pretty close.
Pretty close.
We don't have much fertilizer left in the bottom of our hopper there.
Okay.
So that means that we got, you know, we were pretty accurate as far as our speed. Like I said, there's a little left, so I may have been able to walk a little slower.
Okay.
Slow my pace down a little bit, and then we'd pretty much be on target. Like we said before, if you'd had quite a bit left, you want to slow your speed down considerably, and maybe consider raising your gate there that lets your fertilizer
Okay.
out as you walk. So I think that was a good example of how you can
think it was.
do a on-the-fly calibration right out in your own
On
yard.
the fly
Yep.
with some good junior high math, right?
There you go. There you go.
All right, well, let's talk about some other applicators we have out here. So you want to start with the spray?
Yeah, sure we can.
Okay.
Okay, lots of spray application rates, especially for herbicides and insecticides especially, are going to also give their recommendation rates in ounces per gallon.
Right.
But then they will specify that you need to use that 1 gallon of water over a certain amount of area. And that's where a lot of people get poor insect and poor weed control when they're trying to
Exactly.
apply these, because they're not getting the appropriate amount of solution on the appropriate area. So one way that you could make sure that you're doing that properly before you actually mix your herbicide or insecticide in there is that you could fill it up with just water and mark off a 10 by 10 foot area. That's 100 square feet.
All right.
And apply, you know, your liquid, or actually I would just go ahead and do a 10 by 100 as long as it's just water, and cover that area. And if you use your entire gallon, then you know that you are applying it at the appropriate amount.
Okay.
If you have some left, then that means you need to walk
Walk up a
slower
little bit.
with your
Okay.
applications.
Okay.
So that's another quick calibration method for handheld, even backpack sprayers.
Yeah.
And it's going to vary a little bit because you're always having to
you
pump
gotta
up
pump
the
it.
pressure.
Right, that's right.
So you want to try to maintain, you know, as a good even pressure as you can while you're doing that.
Because of course with these you can build up enough pressure before you even get started, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean it's going to
gonna go down,
decrease
sure.
as you go down. So you've got
Right.
to take that into account also.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now what about a hose-in sprayer?
Hose-in sprayers are great. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. You don't have to do really any calibration because it's doing it for you. This is the simplest kind that you can get. If it calls for 2 ounces per gallon, you put 2 ounces of chemical in it, and then you fill it up with water to the line that says 1 gallon. You hook your hose up to it and you start spraying. And when it runs out of material in your bottle, you've sprayed 2 gallons.
Okay.
So that's a pretty easy, straightforward way. There's some that have dials on the top,
seen
and you
those.
have to set them yourself.
Right.
So that gets a little more tricky.
I think I'll stick with that one then.
Yeah, me too.
No math.
Yeah, no math.
Right. Now, what about our handheld rotary spreader?
Handheld spreaders, I think, are great for homeowners that have really small lawns. Or if you're needing to do a spot spreading for maybe you're trying to fill in some empty holes in your lawn with some seed. These are great for that.
Okay.
But you can also do granular fertilize out of them. And there's really no way to do calibrations with these. I'd say the most important thing to remember is that you need to always have a little bit of overlap, and that way you don't end up with bands that haven't gotten any fertilizer. It's really going to show up when that grass starts growing. You're going to have really dark green bands that have grown a lot, and then you'll be able to see the yellower tints from where your fertilizer didn't get applied.
Okay. And you know what? And that also applies for this as well.
It does.
Yeah, so you have to do some overlapping, you know,
It
to make
does.
sure you get good coverage.
And another tip on that is if you have an irregularly shaped yard, say that you know your lot's not a perfect square or rectangle.
mine is not.
No, hardly anyone's is. You probably want to do your perimeter first, and that way you make sure you get coverage in those odd areas,
Okay.
because we're going to be doing our applications mostly in vertical, horizontal lines.
And that's exactly what I do. And one last thing that I like to let people know is, look, if that fertilizer gets in your driveway, make sure you sweep it back up into your lawn, because you don't want that to go down the water sewage system.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, there's fish at the end of that, you know, chain, so we definitely don't want the fertilizer to get down in
Yeah,
there.
make sure we get that fertilizer put on the appropriate area. Yeah,
That's right.
for sure.
All right, Celeste, thank you for that demonstration. We
Yes,
appreciate
sir.
that.
No problem.
All right.
Today we're going to talk about turning your compost pile. We have had the compost pile here for a while. It's been turned once, but it hasn't been turned in a while. The reason why you need to turn it often is because you need to get air into the center of the pile. That way the microbes that are in there have oxygen to be able to break down the organic matter. And as you can see, there's some green in here because we haven't turned it. What we're going to do is we're going to put these over here when we start our new pile. Since we don't have 3 sections, we're not going to turn clear from one to the other. We're going to have one section that's new, and we're going to try to work on this one now. We're going to be using a spade to turn this. And it's starting to get pretty good, nice and broken down. Okay, there. We've let some oxygen in the pile. Now it can decompose some more. And you should be turning it about every 2 weeks.
All right, this is our Q&A session. Sean, help us out if we get into trouble, okay?
Okay.
All right, here's our first email. What is the best way to get rid of all of this chickweed in my yard? Trying to cut that stuff chokes out my lawnmower. So, Celeste, what do you think is the best way to get rid of this chickweed?
Well, chickweed is an annual weed, so it's multiplying itself from seed.
Sure.
So you really want to get on the front end of it before it starts having those little white blooms on it. And one of the best control methods as far as chemical control would be using a 2,4-D base type chemical or a 3-way type chemical for post-emerge control of those weeds. Also low mowing, if you can get to them before they get out of hand, and also making sure you have appropriate pH levels in your lawn. If you have a lower pH level, which means you have more acidic grounds, weeds usually love those acidic conditions. So if you can raise that pH somewhere up closer to 6.5, 6.5, that may discourage some of that weed growth.
Okay, Sean, anything you'd like to add to that?
Controlling your thatch is one thing. They weather those chickweed seeds. They grow in thatch. So, you know, raking your lawn, aerating your lawn will control a lot of that too.
Sure. Chickweed is pretty tough. You know, the deal is, you know, it likes to grow where you have poor drainage. So you have poor drainage. If you have high nitrogen in your soils, it really likes that. Can produce up to 15,000 seeds. So that's a lot of seeds for such a little plant.
From
And
those
of course,
little flowers.
It's a little flower, and it's a winter annual, of course, broadleaf weed. I always like to go to the cultural practices. You know, that's why I like to start. So healthy, dense lawn actually crowds out weeds. If you do your soil test, do your T extension, fertilize according to the soil test, proper mowing height, which Celeste did mention, proper irrigation, I think you'll be fine. But chickweed is pretty tough. All right, so I hope that answers your question. Here's our next question, and we have a picture with that. We have a twisted willow. It was not doing well in its original spot, so we moved it. It is now putting out a lot of leaves except on the ends. There's about 5 inches on each branch that is not producing leaves. Is it okay to trim the ends off? They are brown, no visible green to them at all. Thank you. This is from Miss Claudia right here in Memphis. And Miss Claudia, guess what? We actually have an urban forester on the set today that can help us out with this question. So, Mr. Sean, what do you think about that?
Miss Claudia, you actually have a corkscrew willow, and I think that it is safe for you to prune off the dead wood, and that probably came from you transplanting from one location to another, and it stretched the tree out. So remove that, don't fertilize, give it about a year to get established, and then you can fertilize, and I don't think you'll have that die back next year unless it has a late freeze and it causes it to die back.
Let's talk a little bit about corkscrew willow, is what it is. Is it a good tree?
Corkscrew is a landscape tree. I think it's planted more around moist areas, around ponds, to give some character to the waterfalls and stuff. But yeah, it's a cultivar.
Okay.
But we do have the native black willow tree here, and they've apparently crossed it.
Oh, yeah.
They caused it to cross to screw. So
You're right. So all in all, it's a pretty good tree.
pretty good tree.
Okay. All right, Miss Claudia, there you have it. Here's our next question. What is this plant? It is growing in my flower bed and has beautiful patterns on the leaves. There it is on the screen. And this is from Celeste, not our Celeste, it's from another Celeste.
Oh.
So how about that? And that is Italian arum, or Arum italicum is what that is. It is a woodland species. So it likes to grow where you have part shade or full shade, good organic material. Of course, you're gonna have that in woodland areas for the most part. It has that beautiful arrow-shaped leaf that I actually like. It's green, white, variegated leaf. If you actually touch that leaf, it's thick. It's real thick to the touch. The leaves, of course, are gonna die back, in the heat of the summer, and it produces what they call I think it's a spadix. And the spadix actually forms beautiful, bright orange, red-looking berries. So beautiful, woodland species, native to, I think, Europe, Asia, in that area, but that's what it is.
Awesome.
Italian arum. Beautiful plant. I mean, if you look at those leaves again, it looks just like an arrowhead. Very beautiful. All right, but you see them in woodland situations.
Yeah, I have one in my yard,
okay.
and you just told me what it was. So
Okay, that's what it is.
And do the touch test on it.
Yeah, woodland species, okay? And here's our next question. Can you put newspaper in your compost pile? Celeste, what do you think about that?
Yes, I believe you can, Chris.
You can do that.
Sure you can. You can add them to your compost piles and they'll decompose just like a lot of your other dry materials you put in there, like your leaves and things like that you may be adding. A lot of people are concerned about the ink that's used, on the print on the paper, but they have changed the ink that they use now, and so it's safe to use. I don't know.
Yeah, soy-based.
Soy-based.
Right. Yeah, so it's pretty safe.
So in the past, maybe folks were discouraging that, but now it should be fine to go ahead and add to your compost pile.
Yeah, and I know some folks that actually shred it up, a little bit, just kind of help out the process, because those microorganisms, of course, are going to be breaking that paper down.
Right.
And it's going to take a little while, for it to get broken down because, newspaper contains lignin. So you're going to have to make sure that you turn that compost pile to get it hot enough to actually burn that paper.
And don't add the glossy pages.
Right.
Probably wouldn't want to add those glossy pages.
Right,
so.
glad you mentioned that. Yeah, you definitely don't want to do that. But yeah, sure, you can put it in your compost pile. Folks now are putting newspaper in their vegetable gardens.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it breaks down, over time.
Keeps weeds
keeps the
down.
weeds out.
Yeah.
For the most part. So I think it's a good
and it's better because plastic is not biodegradable. It doesn't break down.
Right.
So newspaper, I would prefer that.
Right. And it will break down.
Yes, it will.
Over time. So
yes.
it does work.
Yes.
All right, Sean, Celeste, thanks for being here.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
All right.
Remember,
We love to hear from you. Send us an email or letter. The email address is familyplots@wkno.org, and the mailing address is Family Plots, 7151 Cherry Farms Road, Cordova, Tennessee 38016. Or you can go online to familyplotgarden.com. That's all the time we have for today. To get more information on things we talked about on today's show, go to familyplotgarden.com. There we have links to extension publications with every video. Thanks for watching. I'm Chris Cooper. Be sure to join us next week for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. Be safe.
Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by Good Winds Landscape and Garden Center in Germantown since 1943 and continuing to offer its plants for successful gardening with 7 greenhouses and 3 acres of plants, plus comprehensive landscape services. International Paper Foundation, the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.